everyone doing this evening and today and just every day? How's everyone doing?
We're episode 6.
Holy moly.
So we're episode 6, but by the time you watch this, we will have put out a whole bunch of episodes.
Yes.
We are very excited because actually in real time, in 4 days,
Yes.
we'll be dropping our first...
No, not even 2 days.
2 days.
2 days.
In 2 days, we'll be on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube.
Yes.
We are on Instagram. We have TikTok.
The tickety talk.
Listen, we're still working on just getting a TikTok.
I know. I'm just avoiding it as much as I could.
I gave up Instagram for Lent, so
Yeah.
I have until Easter, but it's really, really, really hard. I can't wait to get on and blast everyone with all of our clips and stuff.
I love it. So this episode is actually about death, anniversaries and birthdays. But before we get started, I do, Elizabeth, I wanted to say to you, I just admire your strength and I just want to thank you for just showing up every single time and just showing up so positive and, you're still really in the thick of your grief.
Yeah.
And there's no, grief is forever, right? But you're just really putting it forward to really help others. And that's profounding. And I wanted to share that and just give my gratitude to you and just say keep it up.
I'm equally as grateful for you. I mean, I feel I remember when you approached me and we talked about is it too early?
Yeah.
And it was just like you said, it's you're finding deeper purpose. And this podcast is something for me to be excited about.
Yeah. Something to look forward to.
Yes. Yesterday I took a mental health day. I spent half the day crying. If you do follow me on my personal TikTok page, Lizzie with the gold glasses.
I can't.
I definitely cried on the internet yesterday. I told my mom, I was so bent out of shape. I was crying in my TikToks. I was going to delete it. And I was like, you know what?
No.
Why? This is it.
And I'll tag it on
This is
Grieving
real
Sisters.
life. You're going to see me on a boat in Puerto Rico, and you're also going to see me crying into my pillow.
Right.
Listen.
There's a balance.
We do
There's
what
an
we
equal
can.
balance, and that's what we do, And it's funny. So obviously, we're talking about death anniversaries and birthdays and how do we celebrate and things like that. And I think I was thinking about, well, should I ask you towards the end of the session or should I ask you in the beginning? What are you going to do? This is Natalie's real first year. So what are you going to do for these first sessions? How are you?
I think it's because, today's all about anniversaries, special days, things like that.
Right.
So I think that I'm definitely going to celebrate her birthday in a really big way.
Sure.
I was telling my cousin, I'm I'm not having a birthday this year. because I'm angry.
Yeah,
and I'm I'm not having a birthday this year. And the only person I want to hang out with is my sister, and she's not going to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing a birthday, and she's like, it doesn't really work that way.
No.
You can't just give up your birthday.
No.
And
Some
I'm
people
okay,
do.
Fine.
I'm fighting with my best friend. Her birthday's coming up, and I'm listen, let's go out and party. And she lost her dad, and it's going on 6 years. It's the same year as my brother.
Yeah.
And she was he was my first love, my first and only love.
Right,
she doesn't want to celebrate her birthday either.
Yeah.
She's still really in the thick of it.
So I kind of am I think for my birthday, I might just be chill.
Yeah.
And then for her birthday, I really want to celebrate her birthday in a big way. I know she died on the 13th. So every 13th of the month is this punch.
Yeah.
This tightness in my chest, and me and my mom usually connect and are just, we have a good cry.
Sure.
And she's so I don't know. I think day by day, what I am looking forward to is so where her and her husband are buried.
Sure.
They're waiting for the ground to soften up so they can lay the fresh grass and then put on they call them their monuments.
Yes.
So I'm just really looking forward to,
for them to put that
picnicking.
Out,
I want to go and lay a blanket there and sit there. And Olivia said that. She's like, could we eat here? Could we have a picnic? Because we do it on my grandfather.
They
on my
actually do this
grave.
in Maryland on Edgar Allan Poe's grave. You could do picnics there. Yeah. So it's so funny that you say that because they do that. I mean, I don't know if there's any Edgar Allan Poe.
It was so funny with my grandfather. We went he's buried in Fairview, and I would, how they have the ladies in the street selling fruits and mangoes.
Yes. I always buy from them.
Always.
Yes.
So I bought everything. I bought mamoncillos, I bought mangoes, I bought all this stuff.
That.
And we were oh, let's go visit, my grandfather. And we sat there, and then we started leaving him like stuff, like we left in those little mamoncillos. And then it's funny because my mom went and left flowers, and she was like, "Who left you these little limes?" And I'm like, "Mom, you didn't know what those were." I'm like, and it was us. So me, my mom, and my grandmother happened to visit him separately,
and you didn't even
in
know.
the same week.
I love that.
Because then she was like, "Oh, I went to see your grandfather, and there was flowers there," and I was
amazing.
Like, so. I think just maybe visiting her and like, trying to
that's what we do.
Have some quality time there.
Yeah. So like
every time I go, I hate that it's like dirt.
Yeah.
And it's not pretty yet. And I'm like, she deserves more. It's going to be so nice. So it's like soon enough. Once it gets nice, I feel like I want to celebrate there.
Yeah. For Sean, what we usually do, or like my mom would come up from Florida, and for his birthday, which is the day after yours, we would just go to the crematory, and like we'll leave. They only want fresh flowers now. I'll put a balloon and I'll write like with black marker, like happy birthday, like I was here. I always say like, send me a sign or something. I need something funny because, whatever, this is not, I'm trying to celebrate your life. But when it was, sometimes it was Father's Day weekend. You know how that your birthday falls sometimes on Father's Day weekend. So it's like I would have to go see my dad and then go to the crematory. And then like for my dad's birthday, I would have to go see my dad and then go to the crematory because that was his death anniversary. So yeah, so in the picture you'll see, shout out to Stardust Memorials. Their urns are absolutely gorgeous.
The setup is so nice. The way you put little things there.
I put their picture. I put, he's a big Bears fan. My dad, I put his seeing eye stick because, he always had problems with his eyes. And I just feel like, we just go there, we leave flowers, we kind of say some words and just kind of go on with the day. For my brother, usually we'll go get like, I don't know, we'll have like a Stella or something like a cold beer in his name, and just kind of reminisce and look at some pictures. For my dad, I was looking at some pictures. I saved all my birthday cards. So I see it with his beautiful, my dad had really beautiful handwriting. Yeah. So I would like look at his handwriting and I'm like, wow, this is like,
and it's so nice. And it's so nice that you've kept it.
Oh yeah, I always have to. Like I feel like it's.
Yeah. I'm going to be wearing more gold.
Okay.
I'm going to because Natalie was big gold earrings.
I love that.
Gold necklace. She was a lot of gold. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wear a lot of gold. I'm going to keep wearing a lot of gold.
Why not?
So today, we're going to be talking about a couple different ways that you could honor or celebrate the memory of the person that you are mourning, or, just keeping them alive. As we've mentioned, like just because someone isn't here doesn't mean that the relationship with them ends. The relationship continues to, to go on. So you can create like a ritual or a tradition.
Right.
You can light a candle. You can create some sort of memorial. Some people find peace.
My mom does. She has one like on her table. Yeah. I actually have something like in my bookshelf, and it's just like a picture of my dad, a picture of my Aunt Rosie with my husband, a picture of Sean. And then I also have these necklaces because they were cremated. You're allowed to put a little bit of ashes inside of it. So I have it hanging over their pictures. Yeah. And then I also have a picture from Ghana of my first brother from my dad's first marriage. I have two brothers over there. Yeah. One passed away, and I have him with all his Ghanaian gold on, and as a baby just being just a child. And I never got to meet him. Right. His name was Jonathan. I didn't get a chance to meet him. But yeah, I have like this little setup for them. And then, Jen had gotten me like this candle, like this candle. And I was like, I'm never going to light this candle because this is going to be pretty here.
Right.
And then like I went on Etsy, and I met this woman, like we actually follow each other on social media. She's amazing with her work. And she made this thing for my baby shower. We had like just a remembrance table of my husband's dad and my brother. Obviously, this was before my dad passed. And we had... what else do we have? They had the candle on there, and then she made like, in loving memory, although they can't be here, their energy and their spirit is still here, and it's still alive. Right. So I thought it was really nice. So I like kind of set up that little niche for them.
Yeah. I mean, you can do a candle, you can do a photo of them.
Sure.
You can definitely do like something that was their favorite, like one of their little favorite things. Sometimes for my sister, I'll put like sour gummy worms.
Yeah.
Or I actually have her charm bracelet. She has a really beautiful charm bracelet that we actually couldn't find.
Oh.
And my mom was like, thank God we couldn't find it because we would have buried her in it because she loved it so much.
Sure.
You know, like we buried her in her favorite necklace, her favorite earrings that her husband gave her wedding ring, her wedding band. We buried her with all of this stuff because we didn't feel right taking it off of her. No. And so we thought the charm bracelet was lost in the accident. We actually went to the scene and we were like looking for it.
Yeah.
And then I had a therapist appointment and I said, my room is an absolute mess. And I'm really sad and I really need to like clean my room. And she says, just start with this like little corner and then move your way on. And I realized that my closet was almost empty and I just had all this crap in front of it. And I said, let me just clean all this stuff in front of the closet, then I can put it away. Yeah. And her carry-on fell out. And her charm bracelet slipped right out of it. Wow. And I was like, when I finally decided to like, let me try to take care of my space and get a little bit back to like having a little bit more like self-care in the house. You know, that's the first thing to go. Yeah. Stop showering, stop washing your hair, stop cleaning your room. Yep. And it just came out. And I was like, Mom. We were like, my kids were like, what's going on? And we found it and we put it on her little altar there. Yeah. So that's always a nice special thing.
I love that so much.
But yeah, you can definitely talk about maybe doing something they loved.
Yeah. And visiting a special place. Like, so, you know, that's also another thing, like things that they like to do. So like maybe on their death anniversary or their birthday. And more so like instead of death anniversaries, why don't we have like a celebration of life, right? Like celebrating that they actually had the opportunity to have their limbs and their body and like live a life
and make an impact on all these people that love them.
Exactly. So I feel like, you know, when it comes to, you know, celebrating, right? It's not about it also always have to be joyous, but have joy, you know, again, right? It goes back to having grief and joy in the same sentence, right? Like you can have that. You know, I'm trying to think like, Sean loved so many places, but like, you know, he loved going to the park. He loved going, you know, riding his bike in the neighborhood. Right. So I actually drove by the cheap courts.
Oh, yeah.
I drove by. So, you know, that's our, you know, our grammar school stuff. You know, it was really sweet. You know, not to mention names, but one of the people we grew up with, he sent me the most beautiful message about my brother. He was like, you know, I just remember your brother always coming to cheap courts and like we would always just play with him and, you know, try to include him. But, you know, it was almost like they were 8 years older than him. So he was like a little chamac, you know.
Right.
Like,
he like wanted to play basketball.
Yeah, and they were like, where are you going? You know, you wish you were a little bit taller, right? You wish.
But yeah, I mean, if maybe certain things that you weren't really into, but the person who you're mourning was into. Yes. Like if they liked hiking. Yes. Maybe you're going to go on a hike. Maybe you've never done it before. If they were really into art and you're like not really into it, maybe you'll go visit a museum and just, you will have this like closeness.
Yeah,
you know? I thought about that. I was like, should I start playing a sport? And then I was like, no. Because my sister played every sport. And then I saw Montclair was like, we're having a softball team. And I was like, no. You know what? No. That's where I draw. I'll wear some more gold jewelry. Okay, I will, you know, eat like your favorite ice cream. Sure. I don't know if I'm going to start picking up sports at 40. No. Like my back hurts already thinking about it.
I was about to say, I'm like, I can't break a limb.
Right?
No. No way. Lighting the candle. So that was another one, lighting the candle, like, especially like, you know, they would, you know, some advice that was given to me, like, because he lost, you know, Sean lost his life so tragically, to light a candle, they say, so it lights the way for them to go where they have to be. And then, like, again, like, I can't wait to talk about these other episodes, right? Because, like I said, I went really deep and, like, talked to mediums and talked to other people. And it was just so intense. Like, but they were like, no, if you light a candle every night, it lights the way for them because maybe that wasn't part of their soul contract. Maybe that wasn't a part of the way that they were supposed to go, you know, and maybe, you know, at least for me, like it was just like an awakening for me, you know, which is interesting.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me to another thing that we have here, which is personal reflection and journaling. So like writing in a journal or even having like a reflective conversation with a close friend or family member.
That was the first book I sent you.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's right.
And the candle.
Oh, I got a beautiful candle and a beautiful book from Jess once my sister passed.
Yeah, it was immediate.
And it was just like an amazing journal.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to open it.
Yeah.
Because I was just like...
Still in disbelief.
Right, you know. But I think journaling, I mean, people talk about it all the time. And it sounds so like obvious.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, when I was writing down all of Natalie's favorite things...
Yeah.
Also journaling, like for example, my mom told me something the other day, and I was just like, and I'm like, I have to write this down because I have to remember. So I've been saving this story for this podcast.
Oh, I love it.
All week I wanted to be like, Jessica.
I can't wait.
So my mom, remember my mom made like that big pot of oxtail. We were talking about it. It went so fast. I didn't even have seconds. Like my cousin came. I know. I have to make. I have to be like, Mom. So we were all going to the cemetery, a bigger group of us.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm going to make a big pot of oxtail and we're going to, eat it and then we'll all go to the cemetery. I'm like, okay, fine. So she's in her house. She goes to, my mom is very big on like she has like a very old school recipe book. Like I could smell it. Like I can think about it and I can think of like the old paper of this huge recipe book. And she always had the recipe book and she has it out. And so she takes it out.
Such a librarian of her.
I know. It's like, I know. It's such a librarian move. She's like, Kindle? Like what? She's like, what the phone? That? Like I'm not reading it.
No.
So she has it out and she came over to me and we made the oxtail. We went to the cemetery, everything. So she comes by like the day after and we're talking and we both we're just crying over my sister. And she was like, you're never going to believe this. Like I opened the recipe book to oxtail. I came, I made it, we visited her. I came home, and the recipe book was open to her favorite meal, leg of lamb.
No. Imagine.
No windows open, no fan, nothing. Yeah. She said, I got home, and I went to the cookbook to close it, and I saw that it was open to her favorite recipe, leg of lamb. Like, everybody knows, like, my sister, like, anywhere we go, if there's lamb chops, lamb.
Oh, no, I love lamb. I love a good lamb.
And she was like,
okay, maybe your mom can redeem herself too. And
I know. Like now you have to make the lamb and the oxtail.
Oh, what a sweet story.
But things like that are things that you probably want to journal because it reminds you of like her favorite things. And it also reminds of like how there's like these little touch points and things like that remind you that you forget about, right?
Like it's like things that you really won't
because
think
maybe
of.
she'll tell me this story,
yeah,
but I didn't tell Olivia this story yet,
right?
You know what I mean? Yeah. And maybe one day having those journals saves like the younger people in our generation that want to remember my sister, you know, to be like, oh my God, that's right. She loved
like we said, we have these podcasts too.
That's right. These podcasts will live forever.
That's it. Starting a charity and giving back, I think that's very important, especially like a charity in their name or what they stood for. You know, it was very difficult for me to, you know, for my brother, I started Planted Seed. Like my goal was to reach adolescents and tell them like, it doesn't matter where you start as long as you start, you know, just start somewhere and know that like, when you graduate high school, it's not your end all be all. When you hit your 20s, it's not your end all be all. And I just interviewed, and I loved interviewing people. I loved hearing their story. I think it's, you know, just to hear local people's story too, and their stuff.
Yeah, because we're all a product of the same environment.
That's it. And you know, my brother would always look up to these people too. So I was like, you know, because my father really wasn't, you know, available at that time. We had my stepdad and he passed away. So he really didn't have a male figure. So I was like, oh, you know, this is going to be in remembrance of my brother. But, you know, it didn't really go the way that I wanted to. And it started to become more like work. So instead of that, like I started, I attended a church. Then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start giving money back to people in Ghana. But it just couldn't find something like to give back, right? You know what I mean? So that's why I started to, I decided on his year anniversary, I was going to go back and get my licensure to be a licensed professional counselor. So now I have my licensure and that's how I'm also giving back. Yeah. To you know, and it's really because of him. It wasn't, I didn't want to do that.
But people can also just make a donation in honor of that loved one. Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I always think about, There's a lot of medical students whose dads are doctors or moms are doctors or aunts and uncles and grandparents are doctors, and they can kind of have like an easier way to get through it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I always thought like it might be nice for like younger minority medical students to get some sort of support.
Yeah,
Of course, I'd love to listen. Podcast blows out. We'll have some extra money to start foundations.
Oh, I can't wait.
Like, share, and subscribe, please.
Yeah. See that little arrow?
We need some brand deals.
Yeah. Some sponsorships.
Please.
Hello.
But I thought that would be great to come up with some sort of scholarship for
that would be phenomenal.
underprivileged medical school.
Yeah.
Because my sister always was into the military.
Yes.
But essentially she really needed to join the Navy because that was the only way she was going to be able to get medical school paid for.
Well, my uncle did the same thing. My uncle did the same thing, but you know what? He had to go back to school because they were like, yeah, you can become a nurse, but he became an Army nurse. Mm-hmm. You have to go through extra classes and actually become a nurse. So he did it through Jersey City University. Yeah. And then he went to Christ Hospital and he did his clinicals and all that, and he was a nurse. Yeah.
They took care of everything, and not undergrad, obviously.
Sure.
But they took care of medical school, and then she owed them 4 years.
Yeah.
But when she owed them 4 years, she met her husband. So
imagine, everything is always aligned. Yeah. It's always aligned.
So the last thing we have on our list is creating a memory box.
Oh, I love.
Which I love.
Listen, I'm queen of shadow boxes, so listen, Michael's they have like sometimes buy one get two free, and I just like stack up on them. I'm a queen of shadow boxes, but also those fun, beautiful like $2.99 boxes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And they're so cute, and then you just throw all their stuff in there, and just to have even printed pictures or certain things of theirs that can fit in there, right? Or like or just make in that box you can actually open it up and you can write their name down, right? And then use it just basically like, okay, Natalie, and she was nasty at it, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Right. And Sean, like Slick Sean, you know what I mean? Right. And like you take each one of the letters and just create a word for them that describe them and have it, and you can also put that in a frame or also in their memory box.
Yeah, I mean, we had in our notes here, you can fill the memory box with letters, pictures, other keepsakes. And then this could be something that you look through on a significant date.
Yeah.
Or when the grief feels really heavy.
Sure.
So like this episode is mostly about significant dates, but these are all good things that when it feels overwhelming, you can go into a box and say, oh, here's
this is where everything is.
Here's like a, sometimes you have random things. Yeah. Like I have random things. I have like her chapstick. I have like a hair tie. I have like
my brother's old cigarette box.
Right. You still have his cigarettes. Right. Exactly. So it's like things like that, you can keep in a box. I mean, I know I started with a book bag. Yeah. Like I had a book bag. And I have this one book bag with like her glasses and things like that, and I was like this needs to be like more special. So when we were like coming up with content for this episode, I was like, I really would love to get like a really beautiful box and put all these things, and like I definitely would invite listeners to share their own ideas and traditions.
Leave some comments.
We'd love to know
some creativity, right? It's like typical stuff, but I love hearing about just like the fun things and, again, right? You're keeping their memory alive. You're not forgetting about them. You're not forgetting that they ever existed. You're also keeping, also value to their things, their belongings, right? Because like they're things, they can't go with them.
Right. Like I thought about what was the last movie that I saw with my sister, and it was Beetlejuice.
Get Out.
Which was so funny because we love the original Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
And then I don't think in my life, me, my mom, all of my cousins, my baby cousin, like we all went to the movie. Like we just happened because she was in town to all go to the movies together. Yeah. And I'm like, Beetlejuice, like it's so random and it's so
super
silly.
Random.
And I was like, I have to get like a little Beetlejuice item to like put in there. Yeah. And it's not only that it reminds me of her, but it also makes for a good story.
Absolutely.
So when somebody asks about her, you have all these little things that you can kind of talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I really want to research some other cultures and see like what it is they do.
Oh, I'm so excited for those 2 episodes.
Yeah, we have that coming up, which should be like a lot of fun because I really, really, really would love to adopt some like things that other culture. I mean, that's one thing that no matter where you're from, how you were raised, what language you speak, what religion you are, you all have customs.
Yes.
When somebody passes on.
Right. And then the thing is, it's like, what do you do to keep that person alive? Okay, is it when the next child is born, do you name them after that person? Or, you know, like it's just certain things that they do, or like you give them the middle name or whatever it is. Like, you know, it was funny when I was pregnant, my dad was like, oh, you're going to name the baby Sean. I was like, but what if it's a girl? Like, because we didn't know until she came out. We didn't know what we were having. Oh. So like literally to the end when the doctor was like, you're having a baby. And we're like, girl. And I'm like, girl. I thought it was a boy the whole time. But my dad was like, no, if it's a boy, you're going to be Sean. I said, no, what's going to happen is it's going to be Jeremy because when mommy had Sean, you chose Sean and I wanted Jeremy.
You're like,
and
so that's
he was
my
like,
Jeremy.
yes, yeah. But we joked about that. Like, so like a name, for example. So that's how they continue the tradition, like with names and stuff like that. But, you know, with all that being said, we just want them to never be forgotten.
Right.
You know, and I think it's also important, like even doing those like memory boxes, writing down in that grief journal. That grief journal was given to me by a close friend. And when she gave it to me, you know, I was like, okay, I can start writing in it. But I got to that one page and it was like, oh, write down why you're angry at this person. I was like, oh, angry? I'm not angry. I was like, I'll never be angry at you. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, and then I shut the book and I haven't opened it since. Kid you not. So journaling, yeah, like I'll do it on like a different notebook or I'll do it in like a different, like one of those TJ Maxx books. Listen, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Target even has really good ones, but they're expensive.
If you all want to sponsor us, those nice big names.
For real, like, because we're just dropping names like left and right. But they have really beautiful journals that you can be able to like, kind of like write in and, you know.
Yeah. So that's everybody's homework. Get a memory box and a journal and get to it and share, like, and subscribe.
Yeah. And thank you so much again, I guess, for listening.
Yeah.
And then we'll see you on the next episode.
Yes. Take care. Be safe. And you don't have to grieve alone.
No.